Hello and welcome. I'm Amanda Brawley, and I am honored to serve as worship associate for our beloved congregation. On behalf of all our members and friends, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Metro Atlanta North congregation, which we affectionately call UUMAN. We are a proud, liberal faith community and a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Our mission statement is as follows: nurture our spirit, strive for justice, transform the world. And our vision statement: UUMAN is a vital and visible community for all, bravely working towards the day when social, economic, and environmental justice are a reality. If you are visiting us for the first time, we welcome and thank you for choosing to spend some time with us. Please fill out our online visitor form that you can access from the homepage of our website, UUMAN.org. Someone from our membership team will be happy to contact you. So, let us prepare for worship, quieting ourselves, our minds, our hearts. Be here, be now, in this virtual space with each other, remembering that we are part of the vast, interconnected web of all existence. Whoever you are, whatever color you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. We will be having an online Google Meet coffee and conversation check-in session at 10:45 this morning. The link for this also can be found on the homepage of the website. If you would like to remain in the know about online and virtual events, etc., please email communications@uman.org. And again, welcome.
This is lovely.
It is.
Just sitting here with nothing to do,
No pressure.
watching the leaves change colors.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if time has become irrelevant.
No, it's like November?
Think it's October? Yeah.
Right.
Nothing on our to-do list.
Nope, nothing. Clean
Nothing.
slate.
And pressuring us.
Yep.
Davis playing in the background. And tonight, we get to sit out under the harvest moon. That under the harvest moon.
Wait. It sounds
The
familiar.
auction! The
Okay.
auction! Oh my gosh!
I gotta
We
get
didn't
it
get our
in.
donations
Get it
in.
Yeah, Callie Callan is beating us to it.
I know, Kelly Callan got hers in before they even solicited.
Don't be
Oh my
like
gosh.
us! Get your donations in today!
Oh my gosh, where is that sheet?
Good morning. As a young scientist, Max Planck, the founder of quantum mechanics, came to a conclusion saying, if it is not possible to measure it, it is not real. Later in his life, he came to another conclusion, saying all matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume that behind this force, the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. Quantum force and paradox, complex and simple. This is the nature of reality. This morning, let us journey this nature together.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We are the DeVries Knowles family. Let us light this chalice together. You guys want to hold it? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we promise to each other. Thus do we promise to each other.
November the 3rd will determine the future. Vote for all that you love and encourage others to do so. My parents would approve this message.
A couple of shadow stories. The outline of the shadow asked the shadow, a few minutes ago you were looking down, now you're looking up. A few minutes ago your hair was piled up, now it's hanging down. A few minutes ago You were sitting down and now you're standing up. A few minutes ago you were walking and now you're standing still. Why? The shadow responded, "Why do you ask me all this? This is all true, yes, but I haven't a clue why I do it. I am like the shell of a cicada or the shed skin of a snake, something which seems real but is not. In the sunlight I appear, in darkness I disappear. However, do you think that I arise from these? For they are themselves dependent upon others. When it comes, I come also. When it goes, I go with it. If they arise from the mighty yin and the mighty yang, so do I. However, there's no point in asking about the mighty yin and the mighty yang." A second story. There once was a man who was frightened by his own shadow and scared of his own footprints. So he tried to escape them by running away. But every time he lifted his foot and brought it down, he made more footprints. And no matter how fast he ran, his own shadow never left him. Thinking he was running too slowly, he ran faster, never ceasing until finally he exhausted himself, collapsed, and he died. He had no idea that by simply sitting in the shade, he would have lost his shadow, nor that by simply resting quietly would he have ceased to make footprints. He really was a great fool.
Now is the time in the service when we share where the love that binds us together is spoken aloud and we share our joys and sorrows. Feel free to utilize the chat feature if you're watching live on YouTube and share a joy or a sorrow. UUMAN has been sorrowful that Tanya and Jim Nickens have contracted COVID, and we wish them a speedy recovery. Carla Kapaskis is sad for the hatred and racism that is still harbored by so many. And I have a joy that all of us in our family are healthy and forgetting to be the worship associate this week. I have another sorrow. My daughter is struggling a little bit with school, and yeah, I hope that you all can share. I miss you all very much. Thank you. Spiritual practice. I find that people are often intimidated by the idea of a spiritual practice, right? That seems intense and convoluted and dogmatic, like there's a certain way how to do it or not do it. Just like prayer, I think some of us, having grown up in these dogmatic churches, kind of have moved away from the idea of prayer. But a spiritual practice is something that I find very much enhances my life and helps me to be able to deal with life, the good, the bad, the ugly. I know just attending our church services at UUMAN is a spiritual practice for me. And I have definitely missed our in-person services. I have missed singing in the choir, rehearsal with the choir. And it is such a blessing to everybody who's working and I think everybody who's working so hard making these online services happen every week. So it's now chilly a little bit in the air, and we can finally start to enjoy some hot tea if we feel like it. And I thought of Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh's tea meditation. You don't have to have a mindful meditation practice already. You don't have to be well versed in Buddhism or anything like that. Let me just read what he writes here. Tea is an act complete in its simplicity. When I drink tea, there is only me and the tea. The rest of the world dissolves. There are no worries about the future, no dwelling on past mistakes. Tea is simple. Loose leaf tea, pure hot water, a cup. I inhale the scent. Tiny, delicate pieces of the tea floating above the cup. I drink the tea, the essence of the leaves becoming a part of me. I am informed by the tea, changed. This is the act of life, in one pure moment. And in this act, the truth of the world suddenly becomes revealed. All the complexity, pain, drama of life is a pretense, invented in our minds for no good purpose. There is only the tea and me converging.
the lever, wheel and axle, pulley, screw, wedge, inclined plane. These are the 6 simple machines. They were labeled as such during the Renaissance. Now for physics class. It'll be short, I promise. A simple machine is a mechanical device that changes the direction or magnitude of a force. Machines do work. Work is defined as force multiplied by a distance. I push something across the room, I use a force to do that. And the distance through which I do that force times distance, is the work that I do on the object. And the work that I do on the object, other than friction, equals to the work that is done on the object. For example, let's take a simple lever as an example. A seesaw that has the pivot, fulcrum, in the center. If there's a 10-pound weight on one end, and I want to raise it up 1 foot on the other end of the seesaw, I have to exert, let's say, 10 pounds of pressure. I would also have to push it down 1 foot. But everybody knows, in a seesaw, for example, if you're further away from that pivot point, you don't have to use as much force. But the trade-off is that you have to use that lower amount of force over a longer distance to move that weight up. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk. Hopefully you can understand that, or at least get where I'm going with this, but physics class is over, as much as I'd like to continue. All right, so let's talk about each of these 6 simple machines and their uses with the intention of uncovering its spiritual equivalent. So after today, you can change the direction and magnitude of your spiritual force. The first machine, the wheel and axle. Think about a bicycle that has several gears on the wheel, on the rear axle. Now, a bicycle has a lot going on. It's actually a compound machine. But let's just think about the wheel and the axle, the gears on that bike. Usually there's like 5 gears back there of different diameters. The largest diameter, when the chain is on the largest diameter gear, you can pedal kind of easily, but you don't go very far or very fast. It's a good gear to get started in. But then once you get going, if the chain is on the gear with the smallest diameter, you can push. It's kind of harder to pedal, but you go really fast and far. And on a bike, if nothing is going on in the wheel and axle at all, meaning you're not moving, you fall down. And when you want to go on a bike, you kind of go through a wobbly phase slowly, and eventually you get up to a steady state, a harmonious balance. So for this reason, I equate the wheel and axle with the spiritual machines of balance, harmony, and equanimity. Equanimity is even-temperedness in the face of difficulty. It's keeping calm when you're going through that wobbly stage when you're riding a bike. The coolest athletes seem to dwell in equanimity. They experience that when all the chaos is going around them on the field, all things are happening, that the game for them actually slows down. And therefore they can do what most other athletes can't do. That's equanimity. They remain harmonious with their surroundings and balanced. We all have chaos in our lives in some form or another. We work at jobs, we're raising children, we're experiencing a pandemic, going through a chaotic political world right now in the United States. Sometimes it feels as if we're juggling. But juggling usually leads to dropping things, when it might be better just to hold them rather than juggle. Incorporate them into your life. And if it's too much to hold, to put some things down. It's not easy, but my goal in life is to live with balance and harmony and equanimity. Now let's look at the inclined plane. Let's say you have a 10-foot wall in front of you that you need to get over, and it has handholds and footholds. You could climb that fairly quickly, but you might fall, you might get hurt. What if you just walked up a plane to get to the top, or along a series of inclined planes, switchbacks, to easily stroll up to the top? It might take you a little bit longer. You might walk 40 feet to get you up 10, but it'll be easy. Now, many of you know that I'm a runner, and when I'm running, I don't consider running to be too meditative. Many people assume that, but I do find when I run up the steepest hills that are usually the path is a series of switchbacks. I do find that when I'm running those switchbacks, I kind of do get into a meditative zone. There's this back and forth rhythm, and whatever I was thinking about seems to go away. And I just think about my breath and the path and going back and forth. This happens for me so often that I think that inclined planes kind of are conducive to mindfulness and concentration in me. If any of you have ever walked a labyrinth, it's kind of the same feeling. Walking might not be meditative, but as soon as you walk into a labyrinth, you're focusing on the path, your breathing kind of changes, and you're just going back and forth through the labyrinth. There's no aha moment. Nothing really happens. But for me, when I'm in that zone, anxiety and worry and other thoughts seem irrelevant. Of the 6 simple machines, the wedge is the one associated with the most negative connotations. It's thought of as being dividing or negative. We've heard the sayings, he inserted a wedge into the group. It's a wedge issue. And then there's the schoolyard prank of getting a wedgie. A wedge can be used to hold things in place or split them apart violently. An axe is a wedge. You bring the point of the axe down on some wood, and as the wedge, which gets wider, it splits apart the wood. The wedge's destructive capabilities lead me to think of the Hindu god Shiva, Shiva the destroyer, or Shiva the transformer. Shiva is part of the Hindu Trimurti. The other 2 principal gods in Hinduism are Brahma the creator and Vishnu the preserver. Shiva has negative connotations for many here in the West because he's a destroyer, but not so for Hindus. For he brings about the possibility of recreation, redefinition, renewal, revival, rebirth, and that this can happen through decisive action called karma yoga in Hinduism, the way of action. Karma yoga is characterized by acting without fear of failure or the fruits of one's actions. Fear of failure, yet disentangling your actions from success or failure. It's easier said than done. We all want to be successful, but you don't tie your self-worth or your efforts to the outcomes of those actions. That's karma yoga. A screw converts a rotational force into a linear force. A screw is really kind of a singular inclined plane wrapped around a cylinder. It can be used in different ways, but most commonly it's used as a joiner, a fastener. And to me, it reminds me of interconnectedness and community, but most importantly, of commitment, a no matter whatness commitment. And commitment doesn't just happen. It takes work. It takes force through a distance. And we can join disparate things together. Sometimes several screws are used to join things together, to prevent things from falling apart. We might have several screws that we could use. Our UU principles could be one. Our mission, commitment to mission, could be another. The covenants that we have with one another. Now, somebody really clever must have invented the pulley. Now, in physics class back in college and in high school, pulley problems always presented me with the most problems because they can get pretty complex. There's fixed pulleys, there's movable pulleys, there's pulleys that are in series with one another, pulleys in parallel with one another, and pulleys reminded me of my lack of wisdom. And for this reason, pulleys represent to me wisdom and perception. Because part of solving pulley problems is how to actually isolate the problem. How do you perceive the issue of what you needed to solve? The best definition of wisdom that I've come across is simple. It's seeing things as they are. And ignorance is not seeing things as they are. Yet, seeing involves perception, and perception is always partial, always incomplete. So wisdom actually comes with some rejoinders. Am I correct? Am I sure? Is what I see true for all observers? That generally is not true. So wisdom needs to be infused with humility. Last but not least is the lever, like the seesaw. A lever is a bar that's used to lift weights about a pivot. The lever connotes strength, but also can be thought of negatively. If you have leverage over somebody else, you can get them to do something for you. You can blackmail them. It can be used to extort things. I associate it, however, with the spiritual discipline of prayer. Many UUs are unfamiliar with prayer or how to use prayer. Or they might understand it as beseeching an unknown God for undeserved favors, a shopping list for God. God, pick me up a little bit of X, Y, and Z. Yet I think of it as, how can I leverage in prayer? How can I leverage my gifts that I have to both better myself and create the world that I envision? Prayer cultivates and leverages awareness, focus, and intention. For instance, here's a short prayer. May I leverage my strength and my soul force to actively relieve suffering in the world in some small way. And may I help create the world I envision through the gifts that I have. May I have intention around that. So to me, that's prayer. Focus, intention, and leveraging your gifts to the best of their ability. So we have the wheel and axle, which for me signifies harmony, balance, equanimity. The inclined plane, mindfulness and concentration. The wedge, recreation, karma yoga, the way of action. The screw, commitment. The pulley, wisdom, perception, humility. And the lever, prayer. These are my 6 spiritual machines, and they can be difficult to use at times. And although I typically apply their usefulness with mixed results, maybe someday with continued practice and work, I will learn to use them well. I will encourage you to reflect upon what works in your life and what would be your 6 spiritual machines. I would love to hear how they shape you and how they inform your being and what they call upon you to do in your life.
We will now take the Offertory. In an effort to fulfill and further the vision and mission of this congregation, we ask that our members and friends bring forth and share their many and varied gifts. With this, we will now take the offering using the Givelify app.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Yeah.
Carl Sagan writes, "A religion that stresses the magnificence of the universe as revealed by modern science might be able to draw forth reserves of reverence and awe hardly tapped by the conventional faiths. Sooner or later, such a religion will emerge." Go in peace and enjoy your week.